Well, there's been a lot of talk lately about whether coin collecting is actually worth it, or whether most people should just stick with plain gold and silver bullion. So in this video, we're going to separate the hobby from the hype, and by the end, you should feel a lot more confident about what belongs in your stack, what belongs in a collection, and what should probably be left in the dealer's case. Today in New York, it's Sunday, May 3rd, and before we get deep into this, comment the day and date you're watching from. And if you value the work I put into breaking this stuff down, subscribe and comment, Our John AG. That tells me you're here for honest content, not just shiny sales talk. Okay, so here's the basic problem. A lot of people start with bullion because bullion is simple. You buy an ounce. You know roughly what the metal is worth. You can check spot price, compare premiums, and make a decision without needing a history degree. That's the clean part. But then at some point, somebody shows you a coin with a story. Maybe it's old, maybe it's scarce, maybe it has an emperor on it. Maybe the dealer says, this isn't just silver, this is numismatic. And suddenly the math gets messy. Because now we're not just asking how much silver is in this. We're asking who wants this coin? How many survived? Is the grade honest? Has it been cleaned? Is the premium real? And most importantly, when you go to sell it, is somebody else going to care? I have seen this play out. Someone buys a modern silver product at a huge premium because a salesperson made it sound rare. Years later, they bring it in expecting fireworks. The honest answer is uncomfortable. The metal is worth something. Maybe there is a small premium, but the giant premium? Gone. But it does mean there is a difference between a coin that has collector demand and a coin that was marketed like it had collector demand. Those are not the same thing. And that's where today's example gets interesting. Now, on the surface, this is just an old silver coin from Mexico. Big round silver piece, about the size many stackers can understand immediately. But once you start pulling the thread, you realize this little disc is connected to empire, war, foreign intervention, Republican resistance, and one of the stranger chapters in North American history. Numismatic says, here is metal, but also, here is a story. So, the verified basics are straightforward. These Maximiliano pesos were issued in the late 1860s, across a very short window. The coin is a little over 9/10 fine silver, weighs a bit over 27 grams, and has just under 4/5 of an ounce of actual silver inside it. Based on recently published numbers, melt value sits around the low 60s in dollars. But the coin itself can trade for several times that, sometimes far more, depending on mint, condition, surfaces, eye appeal, and whether serious collectors are fighting for that exact example. And this is where people get confused. They look at the silver value and then look at the selling price and say, wait a minute, that makes no sense. But it does make sense if you're buying history. It does not make sense if you're only buying silver. That's the fork in the road. So let's go back to the story. Mexico in that period was under intense pressure. France, under Napoleon III, pushed into Mexico, while the United States was distracted by its own civil war. The old Monroe Doctrine idea was still there, but practically speaking, America had its hands full. And France saw an opening. Now, this wasn't simply a random invasion with no political packaging. The French-backed project needed a face, and that face became Maximilian, an Austrian archduke from the Habsburg world. He arrives with European royal credentials, his wife Carlotta beside him, and he ends up ruling from Chapultepec Castle in Mexico City. Think about how strange that is. An Austrian nobleman, backed by French power, sitting in a Mexican castle, issuing Mexican pesos with imperial imagery on them, while the Republican government under Benito Juarez refuses to disappear. That is not just a coin, that is a political argument struck in silver. And here's the twist. A lot of people know Cinco de Mayo, but they don't actually know what it is. It is not Mexican Independence Day. It comes from the Battle of Puebla, where Mexican forces defeated French forces. But that victory did not end the conflict. It was a morale victory, a symbol, a moment. The larger struggle continued. That matters because it changes how you view the coin. The Maximiliano peso was not made at the beginning of a secure empire. It was made near the end of a fragile one. The French presence was weakening. Republican pressure was building. And within a short time, Maximilian was captured and executed outside Querétaro. So when you hold one of those pesos, you're not just holding old silver. You're holding a coin from a regime that barely had time to breathe. That is why collectors care. Now, does that automatically mean every Maximiliano peso is a perfect buy? No. And this is where I want to slow down because this is exactly where hype sneaks in. A real story does not cancel out price discipline. A scarce coin can still be overpriced. A historic coin can still be cleaned. A beautiful coin can still be a bad deal if the seller is asking tomorrow's dream price today. And a coin that looks rare to you may be completely normal to specialists who know the series. This is why numismatics punishes laziness. With bullion, if you buy a common 1-ounce round slightly too high, you probably made a small mistake. With collectibles, if you don't understand the grade, the variety, the mint mark, and the surface problems, you can make a much larger mistake. For example, cleaned coins are a big deal. In many cases, an improperly cleaned coin can lose the clean, straight grade collectors want. It may still be authentic, it may still be desirable, but it occupies a different price lane. And if you paid straight grade money for a problem coin, that's not collecting, that's tuition. And tuition in numismatics can get expensive. From recent market updates, the rare coin market is still selective. The best material, properly graded, with strong eye appeal, can bring aggressive money. But average material, overhyped modern pieces, and problem coins can sit, especially when the seller wants fantasy pricing. So when someone says numismatics moves independently from gold and silver, that can be true, but don't turn that into a slogan. Independent does not always mean higher. Sometimes it means the coin market has its own cycle, its own buyer base, its own liquidity problem, and its own quiet periods where nothing happens until the right collector appears. That's the counterpoint a lot of people skip. Yes, numismatic coins can appreciate even when silver is flat, but they can also underperform a simple stack if you bought the wrong coin, paid the wrong premium, or can't find the right buyer. So the question is not, is coin collecting worth it? The better question is, worth it for whom? If you're a pure stacker, bullion is hard to beat for clarity. Silver eagles, generic rounds, bars, older circulating silver, whatever you prefer, the foundation is metal. You can weigh it, price it, compare it, and move it. That's why stackers like it. It is boring in the best possible way. But if you're the kind of person who hears the Maximiliano story and immediately wants to know the mints, the varieties, the grades, the survival numbers, and how the market has changed, the numismatics may actually fit you. Because you won't just buy the coin, you'll study it, and that matters. A collector who studies has an edge over a buyer who just listens to a pitch. The collector checks completed sales, not just asking prices. The collector compares raw coins with certified coins. The collector learns which scratches matter, which toning is acceptable, which mint marks are tougher, and which coins are common but always advertised as rare. That is the difference between collecting and being collected from. Mexican coins are a perfect area to understand this. For a long time, collectors focused heavily on earlier colonial pieces, the reales, the pirate treasure feeling, the old Spanish world. But interest has widened. More people are looking at 19th century coinage, empire issues, caballito pesos, railroad commemoratives, and libertads that move from bullion into collector favorites. Now, I want to be careful here. Just because a category is getting more attention does not mean you chase every coin in that category. That's how people create their own trap. They hear, Mexican numismatics is hot, and then suddenly every Mexican coin in a plastic flip gets treated like buried treasure. No, seriously, slow down. The market does not reward labels. It rewards the right coin, in the right condition, at the right price, with enough demand behind it. This is where the Maximiliano peso is useful as a teaching tool. It has several ingredients collectors like. It has a short issue period. It has a dramatic historical setting. It has recognizable design. It connects to a famous failed empire. It has real silver content. And it sits in a collecting field where educated demand has been growing. But the premium is still the premium. If the metal is around the low 60s and the coin costs many hundreds, most of what you're paying is not silver. You're paying for history, scarcity, grade, and future demand. So before buying, you should be able to explain why that exact coin deserves that exact premium. Because two coins can look similar to a beginner and be miles apart to a collector. One has original surfaces, one has been wiped. One has a better strike, one has distracting marks, one is a tougher mint, one is common in that grade, one is certified, one is raw with a story and no proof. And if you can't see the difference yet, that's not shameful. It just means you're not ready to pay specialist money. Start smaller, study, handle coins, look at auction archives, watch how dealers describe problem coins. Learn the difference between sold prices and asking prices. Asking prices are wishes, sold prices are evidence. And please remember this, a seller can ask anything. That does not make it the market. This is especially important online. A coin listed for a huge price can sit there for months and still convince beginners that the value is real. But if nobody buys it, that listing is not a comp, it's a billboard. If I were building a stack, I would keep the foundation simple. Liquid bullion first, understand premiums, keep records, know what you own. Then, if a historical coin genuinely grabs you, move into numismatics slowly, one coin at a time. Not because a dealer rushed you, but because you understand why you want it. And honestly, collecting what you like is not soft advice. It's practical advice. If you like the coin, you're more likely to research it. If you research it, you're less likely to overpay. If you don't overpay, time has a better chance of helping you. If you're successful, share your success story in the comments so others can stay motivated. But don't confuse liking something with ignoring math. The best collectors are romantic and skeptical at the same time. They love the story, but they still check the price. They admire the coin, but they still inspect the surfaces. They want the piece, but they can still walk away. That ability to walk away is what protects you. So is coin collecting worth it? It can be, but only if you treat it differently from stacking. Bullion is about ounces. Numismatics is about knowledge. Bullion protects you from currency risk. Numismatics rewards patience, taste, research, and selectivity. And the Maximiliano peso is a great example because it shows both sides at once. The metal value alone does not explain the price. The story does. But the story alone does not justify any price. The market still has to agree. That's the balance. So before you buy a coin because someone called it rare, ask yourself 3 questions. Do I understand what it is? Do I know what similar coins actually sold for? And if I had to sell it tomorrow, would serious buyers recognize the value, or would I just be repeating the sales pitch I was given? If you can answer those, you're collecting. If you can't, you're gambling with prettier objects. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying the hobby. That's the best part. Coins can connect you to wars, empires, trade routes, revolutions, mint technology, art, politics, and family stories. But the moment a seller uses that emotion to make you forget price, step back. Because the coin will still be there. Another deal will come. And in numismatics, patience is not just a virtue, it's a discount. So, build the stack. Learn the history. Buy slowly. Keep your receipts. Compare real sales. Be suspicious of miracle premiums. And never let someone on the phone define the word numismatic for you. This is for education and conversation only. I'm not telling you what to buy, sell, or hold. I'm sharing how I think through the risks, the history, and the market, so you can do your own homework before putting real money into any coin.